And now the news in detail. Good evening. I'm Dennis Chabrol. The Guyana government today announced that it will be reducing sugar production in Berbice and instead get into other areas of production. Vice President Barry Jagdeo made the announcement in an address to residents of Line Path, Scullin, Currentine, in Berbice.
I want to tell you about what we are planning to do in this area because we have to start getting economic activities going back again. So we are going to return to some sugar production in the area, but on a smaller scale.
He says some of the sugar estate lands will be used for shrimp production other than swamp shrimp.
We plan to also utilize some of the land for high-end aquaculture. In Berbice, we see a major potential to grow shrimp for export. And so we're working on a big project that not just to grow the shrimp, but process it just here in Berbice.
In addition to assisting about 700 private cane farmers to get back into farming of about 14,000 acres, government says some of the cane lands in Region 6 East Berbice Quarantine and Region 10 Upper Demerara Upper Berbice will be allocated to grow hemp.
We'll pass new legislation to grow hemp in the country, industrial hemp. And it's very, very expensive, and we have the right soil in these areas. So we're looking here in 6 and 10 to grow the hemp and to get a major investor to buy it from the farmers. That means we may have to split up some of the land at Gaisuko and give smaller plots to the farmers and support them for growing that. That has the potential of employing thousands of people.
Hemp is used to make rope, clothing, oil, and other items. While in opposition, the People's Progressive Party had vehemently opposed the closure of several sugar estates by the then David Granger-led administration. The African and Caribbean Chamber of Trade, Commerce and Industry is objecting to police singling out Nigerians as being perpetrators of romance scams. The Nigerian community says it has always worked with the government agencies and indeed the police in reducing crimes. In this regard, the Chamber says it is shocked at the false branding. That business organization says that the Nigerian community is ready to work with all organizations and groups to eliminate crime in Guyana. The African Caribbean Chamber of Trade, Commerce and Industry also says that the Nigerian community in Guyana has one of the lowest crime rates of any migrant community in the country. According to the Chamber, court records will prove that there has been only one conviction of a Nigerian national over the last 5 years. Nigerians, says the Chamber, account for $14 million US dollars annually from education tourism, by almost 1,000 Nigerians being educated in Guyana. A taxi driver from Golden Grove, East Bank, Demerara, was robbed early this morning at knife point while he was waiting for a passenger. The incident occurred at about 1:30 a.m. just outside the Chinese embassy in Durban Backlands, Georgetown. The 47-year-old man told police that he was robbed of more than $200,000 in jewelry, cash, and other items. Police were told that the armed suspect pulled out a knife from his pants waist, pointed it to the victim's neck, and they both relieved him of the articles before escaping. A report was made and police are currently investigating. A student of Tuckville Secondary School has been killed in a road accident. She has been identified as 14-year-old Makeda Quick of 668 Section D, Sophia, Greater Georgetown. Police say that at about 12:30 Sunday afternoon, she was riding a bicycle in Section E, Sophia, when she was struck by a motorcycle whose rider was doing a stunt. Investigators say Glendon Redmond was speeding while being in a lying position on his motorcycle. Redmond allegedly lost control of his motorcycle and collided with a teenager. Eyewitnesses say that as a result of the collision, Quick was flung some distance into the air and fell into a nearby drain. She died. Redmond, who police suspect is not the holder of a provisional or driver's license, subsequently regained consciousness and is receiving medical attention under police guard. Turning to news now from the Caribbean. The Barbados Union of Teachers, BUT, has described as discriminatory the suspension of two of its members for participating as candidates in the recently held general elections on the 19th of January 2022. Those suspended are Pedro Shepherd and Alwyn Babb. The teachers' union says the teachers were not part of the hierarchy of any political party and so did not have access to government secrets or can affect the proper day-to-day running of the government. The union describes the sections of the General Orders in the Public Service Act as archaic and is calling for amendments to bring them in line with the provisions of the Constitution of Barbados. The BUT has proposed in its draft collective bargaining agreement document that teachers with at least 3 years standing in the union shall on application be granted leave of absence to contest general elections for the House of Assembly. Venezuelans who registered to live and work in Trinidad and Tobago have been granted an extension of their registration status to December 31. The Ministry of National Security in a news release says the new work permits are for those who submitted their applications to renew between March 8 and April 9. During the initial registration process of Venezuelans in June 2019, 16,523 applicants participated, but only 13,500 participated in the 2021 re-registration. Those who will be granted the new registration cards are to be contacted by immigration officials for an appointment to be interviewed. The ministry told those who still have pending issues who have not yet received any response regarding their applications to contact the Immigration Division office where they submitted their applications for their renewal before April 29. The leadership of the Bahamas Petroleum Dealers Association is trying to ward off a planned Easter weekend strike by around 80% of operators who say their businesses are struggling to survive the economy compounded by the rising cost of fuel. Vasco Bastian, the association's vice president, told the Tribune yesterday that while he and the BPDA's president were against any strike action this week, the majority of operators were agitating in favor of the move as it has become increasingly challenging to buy fuel in large quantities. He said that the incensed operators were also of the view that the government was benefiting the most in the current climate, while suggesting that they wanted a marginal increase since last receiving the same several years ago. It comes as the cost of fuel at the pumps at all gas stations has surpassed $6, the direct effect of the sanctions from the war on Ukraine by Russia. With the rising cost of fuel, he says gasoline may be $8 at the pumps by summer. As it stands, Mr. Bastian says operators are eyeing the Easter holiday weekend to take action, although he remained optimistic that this week all parties involved will begin to hash out an amicable agreement for all sides. He says the situation has led to a view from some that self-service gas stations may be the way some operators choose to cut costs, adding it was an option to maybe incorporate it a few days before a week. Asked whether the government had agreed to meet with the group, Mr. Bastian declined comments, saying he did not want to get ahead of anything that was to come. We now go to the BBC World Service for the latest bulletin of world news.
BBC News, hello, I'm Eileen McHugh. Austria's Chancellor Karl Nehammer has said he's pessimistic about the chances for diplomacy over Ukraine after a face-to-face meeting with President Putin in Moscow.
It was not a friendly visit. It was a clear confrontation about the facts of the Ukraine war. This then led to mutual recriminations. The Russian side emphasized that they were very willing to stick to the humanitarian corridors, but the Ukrainian side was not. I did not accept this reasoning. I pointed out that it was for the Russian army to guarantee the security of these corridors, so that civilians who were suffering so much can be evacuated.
It was the first visit to Moscow by an EU leader since Russia invaded its neighbour. France says it's expelling 6 Russian diplomats suspected of working as spies. Security officials said they'd uncovered a clandestine operation in which the diplomats had been working contrary to French interests. There's been no response from Moscow. The Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister says more than 4,300 people have been evacuated via humanitarian corridors on Monday as fighting continued in eastern parts of Ukraine. The authorities in Kharkiv and Donetsk say their areas have come under Russian bombardment with a number of casualties. Our correspondent Jonathan Beale has been reporting from eastern Ukraine.
We certainly heard the sound of artillery intensifying in recent days. I think the fighting here will be different from what we've seen in Kiev. It's more open countryside. The advantage the Ukrainians have is that they are already well dug in. Remember, they've been fighting Russian-backed separatists here for the past 8 years. They are some of their most battle-hardened troops. The advantage for the Russians is they are now fighting on fewer fronts. They also have the numeric advantage. One Western official saying he expected Russia to possibly triple the number of forces it has in this region, but also saying that could take some considerable time.
Italy's Prime Minister Mario Draghi has announced a major gas deal with Algeria, which promises to reduce his country's heavy reliance on Russian imports. Speaking to journalists while on a visit to Algiers, Mr Draghi said his government has signed a preliminary agreement on energy cooperation with Algeria.
Immediately after the invasion of Ukraine, I announced that Italy would move with the utmost speed to reduce dependence on Russian gas. These agreements are a significant response to this strategic goal. Others will follow.
Under the deal, from this autumn, increased gas supplies will be sent through the Transmed undersea pipeline, which links Algeria to Italy via Tunisia. Italy buys the vast majority of its natural gas from overseas. World News from the BBC. The Red Cross says at least 30 people have been killed in 2 days of attacks by gunmen in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. A Red Cross official said rebels thought to be from the Allied Democratic Front struck 2 villages in Ituri province on Sunday and Monday. A local civil society leader said some of the victims had been tied up, others had their throats slit or had been shot dead. The Mexican authorities say gunmen have killed 8 people in an attack on a house near Mexico City. 6 women and 2 men died in the shooting in Tutolpec, just north of the capital. Local media said they were members of the same family. An investigation has been launched into who carried out the killings. There's been an escalation of gang-related violence since 2006, when the government began a controversial anti-drugs operation. Dozens of Afghans have held a protest outside the Iranian consulate in the western city of Herat after videos emerged showing Iranian guards allegedly beating Afghan refugees. The videos went viral over the weekend. The Iranian embassy in Kabul dismissed the footage as baseless and invalid. Researchers at Imperial College in London say a psychedelic drug compound found in so-called magic mushrooms may be beneficial to mental health. The findings are based on analysis of brain scans from 60 patients who've been receiving treatment for depression. One of the researchers, Professor David Nutt, explained how it worked.
It works on a very high-level functioning parts of the brain called the cerebral cortex, where it disrupts processes of negative thinking. People get stuck into thinking ruts they can't escape from, and psilocybin breaks down those ruts, or at least flattens them out so people can get out of them more easily. But most importantly, and that's what today's paper was about, that effect persists and predicts a good clinical outcome.
BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
KFC delivery is now available from the Amazonia location. For shore-based Little Diamond residents, call 632-0533, 632-0533, 6080-162, 6080-162, or 503-3591, 503-3591. That's KFC's delivery service from the Amazonia location. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
Now, and the news recap of the highlights. Government has decided to reduce sugar production. A teenage schoolgirl has been killed in a road accident in Sophia. And regionally, petrol stations in the Bahamas are threatening to go on strike because of the rise in the cost of fuels. That's the end of the news, which came to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio Newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves. For the toughest jobs, there's only one original motor oil, Valvoline, powering the world's heavy-duty engines in every corner of the world. You can trust the super protection of the original to keep your business moving forward. Valvoline, the original that never stops improving. Distributed by Swiss Machinery, Eccles Public Road. Telephone 233-3821 or 2495 or WhatsApp 691-1732.
The time in Guyana, 18 hours 17.
Every Sunday at 9 hours, it's the Swiss Machinery 20 The Gospel Countdown.
With William Ryan III on 20 The Countdown magazine.
This weekend's countdown is going to be one of those you don't want to miss.
No, you won't want to miss it. That's the Swiss Machinery 20 The Gospel Countdown every Sunday at 9 here on News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM.
20 Countdown magazine.
Introducing the new delicious and nutritious 1 liter Savannah UHT milk. Available in full cream, low fat, and chocolate, and made right here in Guyana. This creamy taste of goodness is a rich source of calcium and protein, making it great for you and your entire family. And guess what? It comes in a convenient, ready-to-drink package and is distributed nationwide. Savannah milk, just pour and go.
1818 coming up in a few minutes. We'll be joining the BBC World Service. Stay tuned.
You're listening to News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. Accurate information blended with great music.
Do you know the Topco juices and juice drinks are now available in a new 1 liter size and that they come in 4 delicious flavors? Yes, pineapple, cherry, orange and unsweetened orange. And guess what? These juices are rich in vitamin C and a great support for your family's immune system. They are also made right here in Guyana. Topco, the tasty way to have your fruits every day.
Antidepressants.
Yes, that's true, because antidepressants are something you'd have to take every day if you're depressed or severely depressed, whereas psilocybin is something you can take maybe just once or twice, and then you go on a trip just as the way you would as if you were on magic mushrooms, and this, researchers say, changes the way your brain feels and brain reacts. So it might be something you can just take once or twice.
So there must be quite a lot of excitement about this.
Yeah, I mean, scientists are really excited. They say,